Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Lives Leave Talk. All right, welcome to the Spanglish World Network and Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and also on all TVs 2016 forward. Now on Leaf Talk, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, Frank. How are you?
Yeah, the postmortem. I guess it's time to talk the postmortem. Apparently, Mitch Marner is not in everybody's favorite person list right now, rightly or wrongly. I don't know. I mean, look, it's going to be a numbers game. I'll start get right at her, because the first thing everybody's going to want to talk about is what changes are going to happen. Why are those changes going to happen? Your opinion. Why do changes need to happen? Is this another one of those times, this group has come so close so many times and not made it, fallen short. And they've given themselves a little bit of support from the people who make the decision, right, Aaron? Because they're that close, man. We can't tear this thing up. It's real close. Do you think we got a case of that this year too?
I'm thinking we've got a definite case of that. I mean, let's be honest, the shooting was pretty much icing. But at the same time, Pasternak getting the jump both on Riley, our $7.5 million defenseman, and Mitch Marner, one of our 10 million plus forwards, is one of those things that the team kind of has to catch that. There's a certain amount of player awareness that you have to have on the ice. The goal, not Samsonov's fault. It was a great play. It was a great shooting. It was a great move by Pasternak in front of the net that Samsonov potentially could have played three different ways. Everybody's going to argue, oh, Sammy should have jumped out for the puck in the corner. Okay, Sammy could have gone for the poke check. That leaves him open for a 5-hole attempt. And the third option, which is the one that he chose, which was, in my opinion, the best of the three, was to slide across and try to take that away. And Pasternak was unfortunately just a little quicker than he was. But this is not on Samsonov.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Anybody who blames him for what happened there is the only thing you can say that's negative about him is that he didn't steal a save there. That was a steal the game save that he needed to make. That was not a save that he lost the game, because I don't think that lack of save in that situation was the loss of the game. The game was lost when Mitch Marner let Pasternak go, did not slow him up at all. And of course, that's because, to me, that's where all the blame starts. It starts with Marner and the winger. And I'll explain why. And the blame becomes less and less as it goes downhill. He could have very easily slowed down Pasternak if he would have put himself in a defensive posture, which he doesn't do often enough to my liking. And he made it harder for Morgan Riley to do his job. In other words, Morgan Riley had to stand on his head defensively to stop Pasternak from going in there, because Pasternak was already on his wheels before Riley. It's the old story about bad news travels before good news puts on its boots. That's essentially Morgan Riley was the boots, right? And then because Morgan Riley didn't do a superb play, this is my point. He didn't make a superb play. He forced the goalie to have to make a superb play, and the goalie didn't do it. The puck was in the net. The easy play was Mitch Marner slowing the guy down, all on him. And that's why when the team decides whether they should re-sign him, they shouldn't. I'm tired of Mitch Marner. Every playoff, he does something that really, it speaks to, I don't want him on my team. I just don't want him on my team. I've had enough. I've had enough of Mitch Marner. I really have. And my anger is directed at the way the team lost after how hard they worked. And not just because of Mitch Marner not doing what he should have done, but because of his contract that he signed, he made himself very expendable, which is the main reason why I'm angry with him. Because I tried warning him and people like him and people, Leaf fans and such, that if he signed a big contract, he'd end up paying for it. And that this is what's happened. He's going to pay for it because they can't keep him, Aaron. They can't pay him another $11 million, even if they
No.
pay him the same amount. So now you've got guys like Nyes and some other people on the team that you're going, they haven't had a kick at, at the playoffs as much as him. So now it's the new guys we're just going to have to see. The Leafs are going to have to trust the new guys and assume that what we've seen from Marner in 8 years is what we're going to see from him in 9, 10, and 11. So he's not necessary on this team. Unfortunately, the numbers game works against him. This is a cap situation. My frustration is because I'm disappointed for him that he can't be a Leaf. That's the root of my anger.
The other thing that we have to keep in mind here too is he is kind of important to the Leafs. And hear me out, because this is going to sound crazy, but he's one of those players that gets you to the playoffs, but isn't necessarily good in the playoffs. For example, in 2021-22, when he played 72 games, he had 97 points. 22-23, when he played 80 games, he had 99 points. 23-24, when he played only 69 games, he still had 85 points. He's one of those players that helps you get where you need to go, but can't necessarily take you over the finish line. These sorts of players are important. The other thing that we have to remember is come the playoffs, the cap goes out the window. You can pull up as many players as you want. Roster size goes out the window. Number of contracts you have up in the NHL goes completely out the window. So you can use Marner to get you to the playoffs, but once you're there, I'm pretty sure that you can find other options that can better help you do the job. Now, he is actually one of the 4 Maple Leafs that I'm of the opinion probably shouldn't come back next year. There are, I think, 4 players in that particular group.
Let me counterpoint you with what you're saying. I'll just real quick. I'll say that Marner is like a chef that is an impeccable chopper of vegetables. He's an incredible weigher of different parts of the recipe. But somehow when I eat his food, it tastes terrible. That's the end. And at the end of the day, Aaron, making the playoffs is very important. But even more important is winning in the playoffs. I would rather have them be a team that struggles to make the playoffs and be a better playoff team. We've tried the other. How many years in a row we've watched this team be dominant in the regular season by definition? By definition. And to make the playoffs, you have to be dominant. And to make the playoffs, other than in a wild card position in this division, and other divisions are just as bad, they have to play really well. And I just think that this guy just, I got to be honest, I'm bitter because he did that. He did that thing with, I think it was Carolina, that he told the Leafs, I got a contract offer from Carolina. If you don't sign me, I'm going to Carolina. And then he comes out publicly and talks about, I want to be a Maple Leaf. So, Aaron, I have bias against him because he just has done things that to me, publicly are not well known, but privately, in my mind, it's just the kind of stuff that doesn't scream to being a team player. And the Leafs have to get into the team player aspect of the game. They have guys that are really team players right now. We've seen them do. The Leafs have done a great job of bringing in guys under the cap situation they're in. I like what they've done outside of the big 4.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Bertuzzi, Domi, Nyes, those guys have been absolutely solid for the Maple Leafs.
Their defense.
I think what I find most frustrating in all of this is Nylander only played 4 games in that series, and he led the Leafs in goal scoring with 3 goals. You can't win a series when that sort of thing happens. Matthews had 1 goal, Bertuzzi had 1 goal, Domi had 1 goal, Marner had 1 goal. Tavares had 1 goal.
Domi led the team in points, though, didn't he?
Matthews, Bertuzzi, and Domi were all tied with 4 points.
There you go.
And William Nylander had 3, and they were all goals. This is
a series if they have Nylander.
Completely different series if they have him all the way through, and if they had Matthews healthy all the way through. I mean, Matthews, let's be
That's
honest.
fair. That's fair. We can't paint Matthews with the same brush that I painted Marner. Marner had no excuse. There was no reason for him not to be at his best. Yes, you're
Most
right.
most
Matthews,
most nights Matthews looked like death warmed over.
yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened to the kid. God, it looked tough on him. He looked gaunt. He looked tired. He looked absolutely beat down. But he still came out and put a decent effort in for the last game. You know,
Well, Marner's got to go for sure if they're going to keep the captain. If the captain goes, if the captain retires, Aaron, then your whole theory about he's an asset to get him to the playoffs. Maybe they can get somebody else that's good in the playoffs because unfortunately, you know, well, we keep saying this every year, but I got to say that Tavares impresses me with his ability to slow down at a very slow pace. Like his game obviously isn't what it was 5 years ago, right? I mean, we can
yeah.
all agree on that. But I think we also, in fairness to him, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to really attack the Leafs because of the way I attacked Marner. I think it's quite fair to say that his game has not lessened that much over the years. He's not been that much less effective. I'm speaking about Tavares, but unfortunately, now it's a question of he has arrived at a point where the contract, the cap hit, does not justify his existence on this team. A team that clearly has a management team that I'm happy with what the job Trail Living did. I don't know about you.
I have one major problem with
Go
the
for it.
Leafs front office right now, and it has everything to do with a former player from Detroit who has been at the helm as the president of this organization for the past decade, who has the ability to veto trades, who was potentially one of the reasons why Dubas was released. Um, this guy, the Shanna plan, was supposed to take us to the promised land after 5 years, and here we are, almost a decade on, and we've had one second round showing to show for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. One leg, I'm on the fence on this one. I got one leg on one side, the side that you're talking about. But here's where my leg on the other side stands. It stands on when he came in, he promised that his team would always have a chance to win the cup, will always be in the mix. He kept his word. Aaron, we can't blame him for the failure of the team to finish the job that had the opportunity to do the job. Because quite frankly, you could get rid of him. I agree with you, and I'm gonna throw your Mitch Marner thing at you the other way with him. He's figured out how to get a team that he put together a management team that puts together a team that makes it solidly into the playoffs, as solidly as solid is today, right? Because
No,
even
that's fair.
but I don't disagree with you that he should be called into question. Absolutely, he should.
Sorry about that, Frank.
No,
My
that was
my
you. And you know what? I just did a show, a CFL show, and I just realized that I don't have the hockey one on here. I'm
my
looking.
my laptop unfortunately shifted a third of an inch to the left, and everything decided to disappear. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, no, no,
Um,
no.
but
That's okay.
I mean, he has lived up to his metrics in that they've made the playoffs almost every single year that he's been here. Um, I get that, and I can appreciate that. There are certain other internal metrics that I'm sure that Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment has that we, as the general public, are not aware of.
Exactly.
So, um, for all I know, Shanahan may be around for at least another 5 years. Um, but at the same time, a certain amount of responsibility has to be taken. You can't just simply keep moving through players and moving through coaches and moving through general managers. At a certain point, responsibility has to be taken by those higher up.
Absolutely. But I will tell you now. Let me tell you where my foot agrees with you. Is the fact that again, I love repeating what you said and using it to as sort of he has figured out how to put a team on the ice that can do well in the regular season. But has he offered the kind of support that creates an atmosphere of winning? Where you're right, he was here and he hired Babcock. True?
Yes.
And he hired Babcock because he had a lot of respect for him as a coach who coached a Stanley Cup champ, who coached Team Canada to gold medals repeatedly, twice, I think. Um, and so he knew that this was a guy that he respected, right? Well, this guy told him about the sandpaper that was lacking on this team and the defensive ability on this team was lacking. You can blame Dubas. That's easy. He was the GM, right? But he was there. The Shanna plan, right, had to also have, he had to have his eyes on the plan and where it was deficient, and he didn't. He let the mistakes go on repeatedly. This team had the same problem. You and I discussed this for years. The fact the team didn't have a defense and they lacked the kind of sandpaper, not the beat somebody up sandpaper, but the sandpaper that doesn't allow an opposition player to take their star player and throw him around like a rag doll at no expense. A young rookie who was being very effective in the playoffs basically has a wrestling move put on him and nothing happened. That is on Shanahan. That stuff is because that's the overriding mentality of the organization, right? It's like when Burke came in, the first thing he said is, we're going to be truculent. We're going to initiate. Well, there's a reason why he says that, because he's sending a message to his GM.
And there have been instances where it feels like the coach has been crying to the rooftops about getting better players and replacements,
or the kind of players.
Yes, and management just flat out hasn't listened. And it can be frustrating, especially when you have a president who can veto trades. That is a major problem for anybody, and especially a manager trying to put together a decent team. Now, the other thing I found interesting is there were rumors about who Jim Montgomery talked to in preparing for the Leafs, and one of the names mentioned in those circles was Mike Babcock, who has played and coached some of these guys. So I found it interesting that a former coach that the Maple Leafs were, I think, still paying at the time, consulted with a rival team about how to beat them in the playoffs. So that was another interesting rumor that was floating around.
Oh man, oh man, oh man! But this team, this year, the irony, Aaron. This will be the year before there is a major change because they have no choice now. The cap is Marner's. Is Marner going to want to be okay with a deduction in pay? If not, that means there are some players here that I think fans and management agree should stay on this team, like Ty Domi, his son, right? Max.
Yep, I mean,
Max proved to be a regular season and not so much, but the opposite of what you were talking about with Marner.
Yeah, and when you actually looked at that line in the playoffs, and it was Domi, Bertuzzi, Marner, that seemed like a pretty effective line. Not going to lie, they were buzzing, they were active.
Back the finish, Austin Matthews, big difference.
Oh yeah, huge difference with Matthews, obviously, but I mean they were without him for a chunk of the series. And there's nothing really that you can do.
The problem with the Leafs, this version of the Maple Leafs, since the Big Four, they've been a team that, just like the regular season, the parallels are amazing. During a game is just like their season. They really know how to look really good, right? They really know how to have play on their side, control the play, but they lack the finish required, like in the playoffs. And that's during the season. They've, how many times did they outshoot the opposition and lose? And how many times have we heard the excuse that it's the goaltending? I get it. Those things are true, but not when it's constant. The problem with the Leafs is they need guys that know how to play well in the clutch, and unfortunately, Marner hasn't proven it and has very little. Matthews hasn't really. He's been better than Marner, but I don't think he's been as good as who he is and should be. And I think his injury or whatever happened to him this year, right, during the playoffs, it's a shame because I think without that injury, and you can't eliminate injuries from the playoffs because it is what it is in the playoffs. But I just think it's sad, but I think he would have been much better if he was healthier. This was a playoff that he really was ready to make a contribution, and I'm not raining on his parade only because he proved to me how hard he tried, and when he did play, he just looked when he was healthy or when he was healthy at the beginning, he looked really good, right? He had that game, right? And then something happened. Have we heard yet what happened? Will eventually, I guess.
And the fact that Nylander was suffering from migraines, I think was another one of those things that you sort of have to bear out. This was not a 100% team. Now that's not to excuse what's happened here, but it is one of those things that does need to be made apparent. I mean, over the course of the past few playoffs, William Nylander has proven himself to be about a point of player a team.
I love the kid.
One of the guys you keep around. I was loath to admit that I enjoyed watching him play, especially after he held out for a better contract and wasn't around until like December. But hey, he's earned that money.
But he put up.
Concerned. Yeah,
he put up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Listen, him and Marner had the same starting point in my mind. If we're to say that as people and as businessmen, if I can use that term here in this, because I don't want it to be personal, but as businessmen in the negotiation process, they both took the same tack, right? They played hardball with the organization, right? The difference is after the hardball was finished, Marner played like, okay, I got my contract, I'm fine. Nylander played like he wanted to prove he was worth it. And even better, because it was a shorter term contract, Aaron, that's why I like him more too. He took the shorter contract and he bet on himself. Marner didn't. He wanted it all now because I don't think he knew he could be an NHL player, because if he could, he wouldn't have been so afraid. And that's why I respect Nylander, because Nylander said, I want all this money. You're going to pay me. No, we're not. Yes, you are. They paid him, and then he earned more money, but he earned it. And I love that. I love when people who want more money say, hold my coffee, I'll earn it, don't you worry. As opposed to people who say, give me all my money now, and I might help you out in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't begrudge William Nylander his $11.5 million 8-year contract.
He's a keeper.
I have no issue with that whatsoever. And the other issue that we run into here though is Marner's agent kind of sewered him as soon as they started a new round of negotiations and thoughts towards negotiations. Like, hey, Willie's getting 11.5. Well, Mitch is going to get what he's going to get.
Yeah, he might get 6, maybe 7. They're in the group of players who score, because he doesn't do any of the intangibles. All right, let's be nuanced here, okay, hockey fans. If you have a few out there, I don't know. The nuance is there are players that score a lot of points, and there are players who score a lot of points and do other things. And I'm not talking about penalty killing and power play. I'm talking about the other things that win playoff series. Marner's weak in that category, and he should be paid accordingly. And the Leafs, listen, he can turn around and be one of those Leafs who goes to another team and wins the Stanley Cup. Congratulations, good for you. But a lot of times when that happens is they wouldn't have done it if they weren't trading. Like, there are a lot of Leaf players who left Toronto, won cups, because not just because of their value, but because they went into a different situation, which is the challenge of being a Toronto Maple Leaf. Which is another reason why I like Nylander. He doesn't let the noise in this town bother him.
It's a question of finding the right balance and the right ingredients too. because you do have to find the right mix. You have to find which players work best together. Now, the thing that's most frustrating for me is they've had this core four for 5 years now. You'd think they would have figured it out, but a lot of the times it's not just a simple case of putting your 5 highest earners together or 4 highest earners together and saying go. It's finding the right complementary pieces to fit
Absolutely.
around them. So this is where a contract like Marner's, and having a contract like Tavares is already on the books, and having a contract like Nylander's already on the book, makes it difficult for you to Tetris everything in and fill in the gaps to get yourself a good lineup.
I'm a construction guy. I'm a construction guy. Spending all your money on the kitchen and the bathroom and have a shitty roof.
Yeah, doesn't work.
It's just the way it is. That's just life. And right now the Leafs have I think they do have a good core right now. It's not the core isn't, it doesn't say we can't have Matthews. It can't say that. They've got a contract. He's signed. He's with the team. You've got Tavares, who's in the driver's seat, right? He's in the driver's seat. He can decide what he's going to do. They won't let him restructure a contract because this isn't the Canadian Football League or the NFL. So that contract stands. And the only way they can get relief from him is if he retires. Will he retire? Maybe, probably not. But that's why it's a process of elimination that Marner's the only guy where they can find cap space. He's the only person. Who else can you subtract, Aaron, and get cap space that you need for this team to keep the people we think are a core for next year that give, I want to run Domi out one more time. What about you?
I would absolutely love to run Max out one more time. Here's the other thing to bear in mind as well. After the bonuses are paid July 1st, John Tavares' salary for next year is $910,000. That's league min. So, that's something to bear in mind as well.
He's a tradable commodity.
He's a very tradable commodity. Mitch Marner's salary after everything is paid out is $775,000 a year. Everything else is bonus. $7.25 million.
Absolutely. This is the whole point, is that those two guys, they can be traded if they're willing, right? If they're willing to be traded, which they won't be, because first of all, I know why Tavares won't do it. He loves this town and he wants to be a Maple Leaf and he likes being the captain, and good for him. And Marner, on the other hand, knows, and he's got Leaf Nation by the short and curlies. The future happiness of Leaf fans relies on him to leave the team. It's dependent on that. And you know what? I hope Marner reads the tea leaves and goes, I don't think I should be here, because I tell you right now, Marner is now in a position, and I'm not speaking, I don't speak to 2 million Leaf fans. So this is just me thinking about how they'll be. He's going to be the albatross on this team next year, because there's nobody else that they like. Any smart Leaf fan knows there's no point to making Austin Matthews uncomfortable. That ain't going to help you. Even the captain, that ain't going to help you. But, if people start realizing that Marner could go and the Leafs could let him go, knowing what Leaf fans have been through the last, you call it 5 years, I call it a couple more, but still, I won't quibble. The pressure is going to be on Marner. It's going to be on Marner. 100%. And he should do himself a favor and ask to be traded. He should do himself a favor.
My last thought on this, and bear with me because this is going to sound absolutely goofy, Frank. Every single Maple Leafs player should have to go to a local sports bar incognito and just listen to what fans have to say and have been saying about the way this team plays and performs, so they fully understand how much they either A, mean, or B, don't mean to this city and to these fans. I don't think they understand the full impact that they have, and I don't think they really take to heart what the coach tells them about how they're playing. If they could hear it from fans who have waited, in my particular case, I've waited 49 years for the Leafs to win a cup. You've waited a few more than that for the Leafs to win
Well,
another one in your lifetime. It's one of those situations where it's like they need to fully understand exactly what they mean and how much they mean to fans, or how much they don't.
I think another thing that would help, they can do what you're suggesting. I'm okay with them doing what you're suggesting, but along with what you're suggesting, I think what they should do is watch the games. Not
That would
not
help
not
greatly.
not sit there with a coach, not sit there with a coach, not sit there with anybody having an opinion. Just watch it on their own. Watch it on their own and watch what they did and how they did it. And then have a conversation, a private conversation, a Babcock conversation. Okay, I'm being silly now. I'm exaggerating a little. But my point is, because I'm trying to make a point. I think this team has to really look in the mirror, and then they have to help the team make a decision. Guys like Marner are gonna, are going to have to live with what they've seen, and so does Matthews and company. They've got to make a decision. Every player on that team has to make a decision. Do they want to win a cup? Are they willing to do what it takes? Sometimes there's a thing called subtraction, addition by subtraction, and the Leaf team is going to be told by management, I hope they're going to say, look, guys, things got to change. Money's got to leave, or some of you aren't coming back. So I'm sorry if your feelings are hurt and guys don't come back next year that you really love and care for, and you feel we're a real big asset to this team. But guys, here's the story. We need money, and there's only one way to do it. It'll be an easy sell to the team. The Marner thing will be an easy sell to the team because they themselves know. They know how important Nyes can be to this team. They themselves know how important Domi can be to this team. Even their defense, the guys that they brought in, Labushkin, and they can't keep them because of the money they're not paying them, right? So all these things, it's time for this organization to not be run by the individuals. It's time to be run by the team. Do something that this is one thing the Leafs have failed over the last 50 years. They fall in love with their stars and accommodated their stars instead of accommodating the opportunity for a Stanley Cup championship.
Yeah. Keeping somebody around just because you like them isn't a good enough reason to keep them around.
Winning's got to be the deal. Do you wanna call it a day, or do you have something else you want to add? We got time for a little bit. It's up to you.
No, I think I'm good. I do have some things I need to pack. I have some events going on this evening that I need to get ready for.
So what happened to the Rock last night?
We don't talk about the Rock.
Normally,
No.
I don't know which was worse, the way the Leafs went out or the way the Rock went out. I really don't know which is worse.
Yeah, I was thinking the Rock kind of figured they might have been able to get a third game at home, but no, that was not to be the case. Buffalo, unfortunately, is one of those teams like Boston that seems to have our number.
They was buffaloed. The Rock were.
Yep,
They
pretty
had the
much.
lead, just like the Leafs. There was a point in the game where they just had to match goals with the opposition, and they would have brought it home. They would have won.
No,
They
they definitely would have, but unfortunately, they just let that get away from them. A 6-goal run. Scoring only 1 goal in a quarter is never a recipe for success in
no,
lacrosse.
a lot like their first quarter in the first game.
Oh, the first half in the first game.
The first, you're
Nothing.
right. Actually, you're right. The first half.
What are you going to do?
Lovely doing this. Nothing like talking about depressed Toronto. Well, the good news is that team doesn't play in Toronto. They play in Hamilton.
Oh, they'll be coming back to Mississauga next year, so it'll be Toronto proximate.
Oh, they're gonna play in the Mississauga Arena.
Yep.
Oh, cool. I guess they've given up on filling a big arena, a big stadium. I guess.
No, it's not even that. It's that they're finally due for renovations at First Ontario Centre, which Oakview Group failed to file the permits for last year.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So,
well, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate it, Frank. Always happy to be here.
Thanks, Aaron. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Leaf Talk live Fridays at 6 p.m. with a special Monday edition. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Leaf Talk, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget you can check us out on Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube. Trade Marner. See you later.